welcome to Eat Well, Be Happy. I'm Deborah.
And I'm Connor.
And on today's show, we're going to be making three stupendous dishes for you. We're going to be making a fish with a green pesto sauce that doesn't have any cheese, but lots of greens from the garden, picked this morning. And Connor's going to make
I'm going to be making an Asian noodle salad with daikon radish for seasoning.
And then we're going to be finishing it up with a yellow split pea soup, Russian style, tomatoes, plums, apples, etc. So chestnuts, I forgot to mention the chestnuts. So here we go. So first we're going to make the green pesto to go on the fish. And we're going to be putting in about 5 cloves of garlic. You could use a food processor to make this. You could use a regular blender, but we're using a Vitamix because it's fast and it's easy. And we're going to use about 2 cups of different kinds of greens, and I have here radicchio and chard, and
I use the stems too?
I am going to use the stems too. I probably should chop it just a little bit, just to make it easier to catch in the blades. So we're going to do that and put these in. Should have chopped it more, but in the interest of time, I'm always in a hurry. And then we're going to put in about a cup of parsley. And that looks like a nice, sort of good cup of parsley. And because I didn't have any fresh tarragon in the kitchen and the garden, we're going to use about a half a teaspoon of a dried tarragon. And about a teaspoon of pepper and about a teaspoon of salt. And once again, I always feel the need to say this, that we're not using regular or old salt. We're using a good salt, so a Celtic sea salt or Himalayan or a real salt, the ones that haven't been purified and haven't had everything removed with chemicals.
And the pepper is good for you too.
That's true. So I think we're also, just in the interest of inclusion, I think we're going to put in a couple of leaves of kale. I'm not a fan of kale like everybody else is, but I do know it's healthy for me.
It'll be nice because it won't be as fibrous when you put it in the blender.
That's
but
true.
You still get the good taste.
All right, so now we are going to be putting in about a half a cup of olive oil. I think that's is that about a half a cup?
Yeah, I think so.
All right. And we'll be putting in a couple of tablespoons of lemon juice. 1, 2. 1, 2, button your shoe. So when you stop to think about this, we really have all these wonderful greens, and we're not adding any nuts, so we're not adding any cheese, and we could, but we're just not going to today.
This is a pesto that a lot of people can eat. It doesn't have any allergies.
If you want to keep pulsing, I'm going to get the plunger, which I can see we need.
Okay.
All right, here we go. All right, when we see that it needs a little bit more oil because those greens are pretty hardy, so we'll put another splash of oil in. All right, let's see what we can do. All right, I think we've got it. So you can see that that is nice and bright green. Those vegetables have all become this wonderful sauce. And we're going to pour that over the fish. And Connor, would you bring me that? Well, I'll get it.
It's a very nice color.
It's a gorgeous color. And when you stop to think of all the calcium we've got here from all the greens and all the kind of detox stuff that is a natural cleanser. So now we're just going to turn this on. And I think ordinarily I would make this in the oven. So I would bake it in the oven at about 350 degrees for about 35 minutes or so. And I would do it in a shallow baking pan just until the fish flaked. But because we have other things in the oven right now, I think I'm going to put it on here, and I will just cover it and simmer it on low for, maybe about 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes. All right. So are you going to make your
Yes.
dish next? And what are you making? I forgot
So
what's
we're
on the
making
menu.
an Asian noodle dish with daikon radish, sesame oil, and tamari soy sauce. So it's a bunch of different influences, a bunch of different greens, just to brighten it up.
Yeah.
So we're going into the fall. I like to have the last of the fresh food of the year.
All right.
So we are using
Oh,
jade.
so you need to have your pot here, and I need to do that swap,
Yes.
huh?
I'm sorry.
Okay.
So we're using actually rice noodles because it's a gluten-free noodle. So you're not really excluding anyone from eating this dish. But these are a little bit more complicated, I'd say, to cook than regular noodles because they stick. So you have to
Yeah.
work with them as they cook.
So you heard what Aya told me is that you put a little oil in
Yeah.
the water, and then they don't stick, which
Yeah.
is great. All right, I'm going to do a
So-
swap.
We have 3 bricks of noodles. The
All right,
water.
here's your water.
All right, so we have boiling water with the oil, as Deborah said, just so it doesn't stick. And they're going to cook for about 4 minutes. They're going to start to break apart after about 1 minute, and we're just going to work to separate them during that time. So here. And to prepare,
Do you want me to stir for you?
yes please.
All
Thank
right.
you. We've already ground up some daikon radish, just going to add a really strong flavor. It's similar to horseradish, but I think it's much less.
It's not quite as
Pungent.
strong as horseradish.
Yeah, it's
It's milder.
similar.
But why is daikon radish so great? I mean, it's one of those things. I have the water running. I'm all over the map today.
I think it just brings a very fresh flavor to it. It's a little bit of a sharpness.
But
While not being too
daikon
strong.
is one of those foods that really, used to get heavy metals out of the body, and just
Oh,
it really
cleanses?
cleanses the system. Yeah. And like anything spicy, it increases circulation,
Yeah.
so it's good.
So we're going to use the pulp from the radish and the juice because we want to get all the flavor that we can out of this.
Have you ever grown a daikon radish?
I have never tried.
Yeah.
Oh.
They're not hard to grow.
It's easy?
I mean, you can grow a red radish in your garden. You can grow a daikon radish.
Okay, so we have our radish prepared. Now we are going to get scallions as well. So we're just going to chop up probably about a half a bunch of scallions. I think that'll be enough.
Yeah, it's up to you.
I think
Depends
so.
on how spicy you like things.
I like things very spicy.
Well, then make it your way.
If you're feeling
It's your
adventurous.
dish. It's your dish. Make things your way. And if anybody has too much onions or too much garlic, they can always have a little bit of liquid chlorophyll, and no one will ever
Sure.
know that they've eaten that.
Alright, so we're just going to throw this in our bowl here. And after the scallions, we're going to do a little bit of cilantro, just to get everything ready before the noodles are done. So about half a bunch of cilantro.
Well, I can see I'm going to have a lot for my morning smoothies left.
That would be good. I've never tried that.
Oh, I always put it in a smoothie. A
I do
green
like
smoothie.
greens. Yeah.
And I'll put a pear and an avocado in, which sort of tempers it. So
Yeah.
that's nice.
Get a little sweetness in there.
Yeah. So cilantro, again, is one of those chelating agents. It's one of those herbs that is super healthy and really pulls stuff that we don't want in us out
Yeah.
of us. I'm not sure how it does that. I don't understand the science, but
You have to know
that's-
it's good for you.
Yeah.
Alright. Just a little bit more. It's not playing well.
And didn't you know cilantro grows better in the fall in the
It
garden
does?
than it doesn't like the summer. It dies in the summer heat, but it does really well in the early spring and the fall.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah.
Alright, so now we have just one jalapeno to get a little bit of real spiciness, give it a little kick. However, if you don't want it to be too spicy, you should take the seeds out, because that's where most of the spiciness is.
And that came from my garden this morning. I went
Oh, it
out in the
did?
rain for you. I sacrificed for you.
I appreciate it. Anything for a fresh jalapeno.
Did you see I gave you a choice of a couple of red ones, which would be even
Yeah.
hotter?
I don't know, that might be too spicy for me.
All right, so how do I know when these noodles are done?
So you can see if the brick is starting to fall apart.
It's all falling apart.
Alright, then it should be done within about a minute.
Okay.
Like to, you can taste one, but it's usually done after about the 4-minute mark.
So just like with spaghetti, you can taste.
Yep. You could have it al dente if you like to.
Are you Italian?
I am.
So how come you're doing an oriental noodle instead of a real pasta?
I like to mix it up a little bit.
I am done.
Think it's done? All right, so we're gonna,
I'll pour that.
as with Aya's dish, we're going to rinse that with cold water after we drain it.
It's actually really al dente. Are you okay with that?
I'm fine with that. Sounds
Okay.
good. All right, so just so those don't stick after we rinse them, we're gonna add a little bit of sesame oil before we add our dressing. Gonna drain that. And for our dressing, we just have 1/8 of a cup of tamari soy sauce and 1/8 of a cup of sesame oil.
Connor, do you want the noodles back in the pot to toss?
Yes, please. And we're just gonna add, for now, about a teaspoon of salt. We're gonna go light on the salt because we're gonna be adding toasted peanuts to this, and they can be a little bit salty. So we have everything. Now we're gonna add some baby arugula as well. Just to add some more green to this dish.
Here are your noodles, and you can do with them what you
Thank you.
will. I'm going to check my fish.
Okay. Just gonna add a little bit of the oil so we don't stick. And now we just combine everything. We've got our dressing, the oil and the soy sauce and the salt, and the greens and the radish. How is the fish looking?
The fish is starting to flake, but I have 4 portions. Unfortunately, 2 of them are much thicker than the other.
Yes.
And if I were to do it next time, I would be more careful to have my fish fillets the same thickness. So 2 of them are done and 2 of them are not. But I've just turned the heat off. So you can see that was about 3-4 minutes to cook the fish.
Yep.
And I'm just going to let it and hope that by the time we're ready to dish it out, they'll all be done and none of them will be overdone. But we'll see. All right.
All right, I think this is just about done.
Okay.
Bring my bowl over here.
All right.
So be careful, this is a warm bowl. Sometimes difficult to get everything evenly distributed.
The trick with this show is trying to clear off the counter and keep making space to move on.
Yes.
So is this the whole dish?
Yep.
That is huge dish for that beautiful little amount. So what can we do to make that look?
Make it a little spacious. So I'm going to spread this out.
Aha, he's going to do that.
Forgot a fork.
All right.
And just to add some more texture to this, so it's not just noodles and greens, just to mix it up, we've got salted peanuts. I think it's a nice combination. What else would you recommend adding to this to maybe
Oh,
add other?
I don't know. You could do tofu, you could do tempeh, you could do shrimp.
Shrimp would be good.
You could do all kinds of things.
So that's it. It's just a very simple dish to make.
Can
The
I
noodles.
push it with my fingers a little
Yes.
bit? Can I maybe grab some mint? Can we put a little,
Mint would be good.
just for color, or just for texture or something, I don't know. Just put it there. Just because we want things visually to be stunningly beautiful.
Sure.
All right, let's put that down in the front, in front of the burner. And I have now, in order to be able to make the soup, I've got to clean up the oriental part of it so we don't get cilantro and
Pretty
et
good at
cetera.
making a mess.
Well, I'd say you did a decent job, but it's okay. That's the fun about being in the kitchen,
is.
is you get to make a mess.
You have to use your hands a lot.
It's like kids, you get to play with dirt. All right, one more swipe on that, I think. No, wet. Wet. All right, their pot holders are there, and if you wouldn't bring that blue pot over and put it on this burner for me, that would be great.
Okay.
Thank you, Connor.
So what is in there?
So I'm going to tell you what's in there. But I'll keep it a mystery until I do. All right. Okay, so in here, we're We're going to be making a Russian yellow split pea soup with chestnuts and tomatoes and plums, etc. So I have in here, and I need a spoon, I'm sorry. We have in here 2 cups of yellow split peas, which is used a lot in Russian cooking, and I didn't know that until I had a Russian friend. And they take forever to cook. I find that they cook, different batches cook differently too. So for instance, these guys, which evidently have been rolling around in my refrigerator since the beginning of time, should have only taken about 40 minutes to cook, but it's like 2 hours and they're still not fully, they're just splutting, as you can see. Or maybe you can't because the pot is deep. And they have a tendency to bubble over too, so you bring them to a boil and then you watch them like crazy or it goes all over your stove. But in any case, so I have in here the yellow split peas, which are like the green split peas in that they're very satisfying and very hearty and also very inexpensive and very economical to use. So for this soup, we are going to be, we have the 2 cups of the yellow split peas and we have about 10 cups of water. And we're going to be adding about, you know, you can use a half a pound of dried chestnuts, but these are whole chestnuts. These are, well, I don't know what they call them, but you buy them in bags at the supermarket. And they're already soaked for you, so they're not dry. And I'm just going to kind of coarsely, have you ever tasted a chestnut?
I have never tried one this way before. Thank you.
Tell me what you think.
It was very good.
How would you describe a chestnut? It has a very distinctive, yeah, it has a very distinctive flavor. And the stories say that in Italy during times of famine, or times when winters were very severe and there wasn't much food to eat, people lived and survived on chestnuts and chestnuts flour. And that's why chestnuts are used so much, I guess it's northern Italian cooking.
Really?
So maybe sometime we'll make a chestnut bread, which I absolutely love. But
Sounds
anyway,
delicious.
so we're putting in there about a pound of already soaked chestnuts or out of the bag fresh chestnuts, or about a half a pound of dry. And then we're going to use about 2 cups of a diced tomato. And I could have used them from the garden, but I had this jar already open, so I'm going to use about 2 cups of a diced organic tomato.
Would you like the burner on?
Yes, thank you. I'm making soup.
I hadn't
forgot
noticed
to
it
turn
was
the
off
burner
yet.
on. And then I'm going to use 4 cloves of garlic. And yes, you could use more, but we're going to suffice it with 4. And we're just going to sort of chop it up a little bit.
I always use extra garlic.
Yeah. And the smaller you chop it, of course, the more flavorful your soup gets because there's more surface for the water and the other ingredients to grab. But I'm always in a hurry. Yeah, we might want to get it not quite so, is it medium heat?
Yep.
So we want to cook the soup. Once you have your peas cooked, you want to cook the soup over medium heat.
So other than the peas, it's actually a quick soup?
Of course. Is anything I make not quick?
Oh, I can't think of any.
I'm much more about getting to the table and sharing the food with people you love.
Yeah, you don't want to be hungry while you're cooking. You
Yeah.
want to get to the food.
And I have about 3 cups of chopped onion that I'm going to add in too. And that probably, here, let me just borrow that spoon for a minute. So this soup could cook for about, 20 to 40 minutes, depends on how well you like things cooked. And then it could sit overnight, and then it would be even better the next day warmed. So we are also now going to add, well, let's add our spices. So I have here about a teaspoon of turmeric, and turmeric is that yellow spice that stains, but it also works on inflammation. So it, I think about let me see how much cinnamon I'm using, because this soup uses soup uses cinnamon. So I'm using about a half a teaspoon of turmeric and a pinch of cinnamon. And the turmeric will turn it yellow. We'll also add that properties of anti-inflammatory properties, and we'll give it some nice flavor, but not too much heat.
Yeah.
And the cinnamon does the same thing. Oh, here's the cinnamon. No, this is cayenne, I'm sorry.
Yep.
About a quarter of a teaspoon of cayenne.
Is this going to be spicy or just a little bit of hint
Just
of
a little. You won't
kick?
even really know it's there if you don't know it's there. But it'll give nice flavor. And Russians love to use plums or prunes,
Yeah.
as they're called. Dried plums or prunes, and they love to use them in their cooking.
There seems to be a lot of preserved foods in Russian cooking.
Yeah, maybe that's because refrigeration was hard to,
Yeah.
and when things were harvested, they had to last all through those cold Russian winters. Who knows? But every country has had its weather challenges, hasn't it? All right, so we're going to put in about 8 prunes chopped and about 1 apple, and we're not going to peel it because there's no need. We're just going to dice that,
The skin is the best part,
particularly in
where
soup.
most of the nutrients are.
Yeah. And we love apples because they have all that wonderful fiber and pectin. And
So would the pectin thicken the soup up a little bit?
I don't know that it would in this shape, but certainly when you eat a fresh apple, you're getting that fiber, and it does fill you up, and it does move things along as well. Not that you
It's
asked.
a nice way to put it.
And you can see my knife techniques are anything but the best, and my knife is a little dull. But all right, so we've got in our 2 cups of yellow split peas. We've got in our teaspoon of turmeric, our half teaspoon of cinnamon, our half
Cayenne.
teaspoon of or maybe a quarter of a teaspoon of cayenne, our apple, our plums, our 2 cups of onions, our pound of chestnuts or half pound of dry chestnuts. Let's put in a little salt and a little pepper, and then we're going to add some lemon juice. So about a teaspoon of salt and about a teaspoon of pepper. And let me see if I've forgotten anything else. Mint. So what do we do with the mint? We used it all in your
You
dish.
sacrificed it for my dish.
Oh, let's see, here's another bit. So we'll just put in a little bit of mint.
So which is going to soften up first, the apples or the onions in this? Probably the onions. maybe?
Probably the onions because they're more finely chopped.
And you like to keep the apples a little bit firm so there's a little bit of a crunch.
I like the soup to be meltingly tender and soft.
Ah.
So I had to make one last night. And all right, so that's a little bit of the mint. And we'll have a little bit more, and a little bit of lemon juice. So lemon juice, I'm going to put about a tablespoon or 2. Okay. All right, so now maybe what we want to do is turn up the heat and cover the pot. All right, so we're going to let that do its own thing. So wanted to talk about our meal before we actually dish it out. We've got yours really looking absolutely stunningly beautiful. The fish I'm going to bring over because we want to plate it with, we're going to use some jade pearl rice, which will go with your green salad. So I just want to show you. We saw the split peas in the soup that we now put on the stove to finish cooking.
Yep.
They were nice and they were split. They were nicely popped. This one that I made last night, they did not. The reason being, I added all the ingredients to the pot together with them before they were split. I love that word, split. And you can just see that they don't finish cooking. They don't do a good job.
Yeah. Could you use a different type of pea? Would it still work?
You could use a red lentil, and then you'd have that. But with split peas or yellow split peas, you want to cook them first. You want to basically have them do their thing before you add acidic vegetables like tomatoes, or you're adding the sweet things like the prunes and the apples.
Yep.
This is perfectly edible, but it doesn't have that thick richness as the one that we just put on the stove now will do.
This one's more of a stew. That one seems like a stew a little bit.
Yeah, and we'll just put a little mint on there. And mint, we all know, for many of us who drink mint tea after a meal, helps digestion. So we're just going to put that one down there so you can see. Now, if you can hand me a plate and that pot of rice, please.
There you are. This rice here.
Right here. Thank you. So knowing that the fish wouldn't be enough on a plate, I cooked some jade pearl rice, and this is rice that Aya loves because it's a white short grain white Japanese rice that's infused with bamboo. And while it was being grown in Japan, it's now being grown in California.
Yeah.
And they are doing an absolutely beautiful job, and you can just see how it's the only white rice I eat, but it's just really, really pretty. So we're going to put that there, and we're going to dish out a piece of the fish. And we're going to put that right there. I'm going to add some of that extra pesto right on there. And we're just using mint with gay abandon. We're going to put mint. And somewhere I have a lemon that I was going to garnish, but maybe we can garnish this. Maybe we can.
That look nice.
Yeah, you want to peel that for me?
Yep.
You probably have better fingernails than I do. So we'll put that on the plate.
My knife.
No, you're doing that, are you, huh?
I gotta cheat.
All right. So chestnuts, I just wanted to mention chestnuts for a while. I mentioned that in Italy they were used to help people ward off starvation, because it was one thing that was really hearty and filling, but it is a tree nut, and so there are so many people who are allergic to tree nuts nowadays, and it didn't occur to me for a while that they would also be allergic to chestnuts, and they would be. I have a friend who can't do tree nuts, and I nearly killed her when I made her chestnut bread and didn't think. So be careful about that. Don't do that. I again want to talk about our fish that we cooked in the pesto here. The pesto is still sort of raw, as you can see. So this might qualify for someone who is trying to eat primarily a raw diet or not. But if you were a raw diet person and you didn't want to do fish or you're a vegetarian, this is great on beans. I was actually going to throw in some chickpeas here, and then I just changed my mind at the last minute. It was really great with chickpeas.
You have to be worried about losing any nutrients if you cook the pesto too much?
You know, there's some vegetables they say are actually even have more food values when they're cooked, like carrots and tomatoes they say are actually better when they're cooked, and I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what they say. So let's just put some, I can't get those little things off, can you? We'll just sort of take it there. So we're just trying to, so I was getting back to the green pesto. This is really great with beans. It's great with rice, so one could put chickpeas and rice in here and put the pesto on top. It will have a slightly strong taste. So let's taste it and let's see what you think.
It's very good.
Isn't that good? Doesn't that surprise you?
And there's no nuts.
No nuts and no cheese. But doesn't it taste like it has cheese?
It does taste
in there?
like it has cheese.
I don't know. I think it's the chard. I'm a real fan of chard and pesto these days. And there's a sauce I've made just chopping chard and just with garlic and lots of lemon and lots of olive oil. So that tastes wonderful to me. All right. So I think, Connor, anything you want to say about your dish? Anything you want to leave these fine folks with?
I think it's just the noodles are a very great option for anyone who's looking to make a dish and be creative. You can really add any flavors you like if you want an Asian theme.
So paleo, I think the dressing and those peanuts and all the toasted sesame oil and the soy sauce, I couldn't think of its name, would be actually great on steak, on scallops, shrimp, chicken, tofu, tempeh.
Yeah.
Then it would be very paleo. All right, so from Deborah
and Connor,
we've had a great time cooking for you in the kitchen, and hopefully we've confused you enough so that you can take these things and you can do whatever you want, whatever floats your boat at home, because that's what it's all about. And just make sure to invite the neighbors over for dinner too, please. See you soon. Bye.